His lips were blue. The rain kept falling. Cars rushed past like nothing was wrong. She pressed her hands against his chest, counting under her breath, terrified she was already too late. Then, with shaking fingers and a whispered apology, the single mom janitor leaned down and kissed a stranger to bring him back to life. If stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things warm your heart, take a second to subscribe to Kindness Teles, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Now let me tell you how that rainy night changed 2 lives forever. Every weekday at 5:10 a.m., while most of the city was still asleep, Elena Ramirez pushed open the side door of Westbridge Medical Plaza with a thermos of instant coffee and a pair of worn-out sneakers that squeaked on the tile. The lobby lights hummed overhead. The air smelled like lemon disinfectant and yesterday's stress. It was her kingdom, even if nobody else saw it that way. She worked as a janitor, the kind of job people only noticed when something wasn't clean. At 32, Elena had already lived 3 lifetimes. She was a single mom to an 8-year-old boy named Mateo who loved dinosaurs and peanut butter sandwiches and asked questions she didn't always know how to answer, like why his dad never called. Bills piled up on the kitchen counter in uneven stacks. Her car had a crack across the windshield like a spiderweb. Some nights she lay awake calculating which payment could wait another week. Still, every morning, she tied her hair into a tight ponytail, clocked in, and started mopping like she was polishing a palace. She hummed while she worked. She greeted the night nurses by name. She taped little smiley face stickers on the trash carts for the kids who came in for early appointments. People said she had a light about her, like she refused to let the world make her hard. Morning, sunshine, the security guard would tease. She'd grin back. If I don't bring the sunshine, who will? The medical plaza wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. Steady meant rent. Rent meant Mateo stayed in the same school. Stability was her definition of luxury. On Fridays, she sometimes took the bus home instead of driving to save gas. That night, the sky had been threatening rain all afternoon, heavy gray clouds sitting low over the city. By the time she finished her shift, the wind was sharp and cold. She wrapped her thin jacket tighter and hurried toward the bus stop 2 blocks away, pushing her cleaning cart back into the storage room before leaving. The streetlights flickered on, reflecting off wet pavement. Halfway down the block, she noticed a black sedan parked crookedly near the curb, hazard lights blinking. At first, she thought someone had just broken down. It wasn't her business. She had groceries to buy and homework to check and a son waiting at home. But then she saw the driver's door slightly open. Something about that small detail tugged at her chest. She slowed. Rain started falling, soft at first, then harder. Water dripped from the street signs. The car didn't move. No one stepped out. Her stomach tightened. She remembered her mother always saying, if something feels wrong, don't ignore it. Kindness is sometimes just paying attention. She walked closer, telling herself she was just being cautious. Inside the car, a man slumped sideways against the steering wheel. His expensive suit jacket was soaked where the rain had blown in. His head hung at an odd angle. He wasn't moving. "Sir," she called through the open door. "Hey, can you hear me?" No answer. Her heart started pounding. She touched his shoulder and shook gently. His skin felt cold. Too cold. She had taken a basic CPR class years ago at the clinic after Mateo was born, just in case. She never thought she'd use it on a stranger in the rain. She dragged him carefully out of the car and onto the sidewalk, kneeling beside him, water soaking through her jeans. She checked his pulse the way she'd been taught. Nothing. Her breath caught. No, no, no. Cars kept passing. No one stopped. She started chest compressions, counting out loud, hands trembling. 30 presses. 2 breaths. She pinched his nose and leaned down, pressing her lips to his, tasting rainwater and metal and fear. She whispered, "Come on, please, please." She'd never kissed anyone like that. It wasn't romantic. It was desperate. It was a prayer. She kept going. Counting. Breathing. Pushing. After what felt like forever, he coughed violently. Air rushed into his lungs like a broken engine sputtering back to life. She almost cried from relief. His eyes fluttered open, confused and glassy. He stared at her like she was the last thing he expected to see. "You're okay," she said, her voice shaking. "You're okay. Just stay with me." An ambulance arrived minutes later. The paramedics took over, asking questions she could barely answer. She gave her name, wiped rain from her face, and watched them load him in. They asked if she was family. She shook her head. Just someone who saw him. They thanked her and drove away. And just like that, the street was quiet again. She missed her bus. By the time she got home, Matteo was already asleep on the couch with a cartoon playing. She tucked him into bed and sat at the kitchen table, staring at her hands. They still felt the weight of that man's chest under her palms. For days, she wondered what had happened to him. Whether he'd made it. Whether he even remembered her. Then, a week later, her supervisor called her into the office. Her first thought was panic. Had she messed up a shift? Was she getting cut from the schedule? But when she walked in, a tall man in a tailored gray suit was standing by the desk, looking strangely familiar. It took her a second to recognize him without the rain and the lifeless stillness. The man from the car. He looked different now. Healthier. Stronger. But his eyes were the same. Soft. Grateful. He stepped forward slowly, like he didn't want to scare her. "You're Elena, right?" She nodded. "My name is Daniel Whitaker," he said. "You saved my life." She blinked. The name rang a bell. Whitaker Industries. The company that owned half the office buildings downtown. The kind of billionaire you only saw on the news. She suddenly became very aware of her faded uniform and cleaning gloves stuffed in her pocket. "I just did what anyone would do," she murmured. He shook his head. "No. Most people drove past. You didn't." He told her he'd had a sudden cardiac event while driving home from a board meeting. If she hadn't started CPR when she did, the doctors said he wouldn't have made it. "I don't remember much," he admitted. "Just rain. And then, your voice telling me to stay." His eyes watered slightly. "I owe you everything." She didn't know where to look. No one had ever talked to her like that. Over the next few weeks, Daniel kept in touch. At first it was just thank you notes and flowers for the janitorial staff. Then he asked if he could meet her for coffee to properly thank her. She almost said no. Their worlds were too different. But she went. He wasn't what she expected. No arrogance. No bodyguards. Just a tired man who'd spent years chasing numbers and deals and suddenly realized he almost died alone in a car. He asked about her life. Really listened. When she mentioned Matteo, his face lit up. "Single parents are superheroes," he said quietly. "My mom raised me the same way." One afternoon, he surprised her by visiting Matteo's school with a donation of new computers, anonymously at her request. Another time, he paid for a full health checkup for the entire cleaning staff at the plaza. He didn't throw money around to impress people. He used it carefully, like he was trying to repair something bigger than himself. And slowly, Elena realized something strange. The man she saved wasn't just grateful. He was changing. He started leaving the office earlier. Calling his sister more. Funding scholarships. Visiting the hospital wing for heart patients. "Almost dying rearranges your priorities," he told her once with a small smile. "You rearranged mine." Months passed. Life didn't become perfect. Bills still came. Matteo still forgot his homework. But there was a new warmth in their world. Daniel offered her a better position managing facilities at one of his buildings, with benefits and hours that let her pick Mateo up from school. "You earned this," he said. "Not because you saved me. Because you're the kind of person who saves people." The night she got the job offer, she hugged Mateo so tight he squealed. Years later, she would still think back to that rainy sidewalk and how easily she could have walked past. How one small choice, to stop, to care, to kneel in the cold and give a stranger her breath, had opened doors she never imagined. Kindness doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's just noticing. Just staying. Just refusing to let someone face their worst moment alone. But those small acts ripple outward in ways we may never fully see. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs a reminder that ordinary people can change lives. And tell us in the comments about a moment when kindness changed yours. Because sometimes, all it takes to transform everything, is one brave, selfless kiss in the rain.